It's he was Santa Claus. He was a professional bum, if you want, okay? He was a great friend.
What did you call it?
A bum.
This channel deals with a lot of nostalgia, and of course this time of year deals with a ton, just loads of nostalgia. So to fuse the stories that I've told and Christmas time in one video is very exciting for me, and that's what I'm going to do right now. The story of one of the first Santa Clauses in the Pointe Claire shopping center. Now the Pointe Claire shopping center, now called Plaza Pointe Claire, located on the corner of St. John's and the 20, was something that really sparked my interest at the beginning of this series. Not so much the whole mall itself, but the opening day of this mall. The inception of the mall, the fact that something huge happened for a mall that in my own young memory was just an old shopping center that was at the end of St. John's here in the West Island. So I wanted to get to know a little bit more about what it felt like in those early days, the late 50s and the very early 60s. So I found someone who had experienced this mall in those early years. Her name is Diane. We met at this mall in 2018 and did a little walking tour. Now Diane had been to this mall quite often in those years because both her parents worked in this mall. Her dad worked at Mike Mastro's barbershop and her mom worked at Fifth Avenue. When we got to one particular part of the mall, she was kind of forced to remember Santa Claus from those very early years of the mall.
So here you can see it this is where it ended. This was outdoors. This would have been outdoors. And at Christmas time, Santa Claus would sit here and he outside. And
it wouldn't be cold?
Of course it was cold.
Why would it get hemorrhoids?
Because he came from the North Pole.
Oh, it's true. He's used to it.
He's used to the cold.
He's used to the cold.
And he used to come and sit on his lap. God knows what he was like, this guy, but he was always drunk. and I could understand.
Look, he's freezing.
He was freezing, so he was always drinking. He would have it under his chair. And this was really funny. And I used to come to my mom and say, you know, Santa smelled funny. I think he's been drinking. So that was my experience with Santa Claus.
Now, but Santa coming to this mall wasn't anything new. I mean, the kids who had already lived here for the past 10 or 15 years or so or more had already experienced Santa. He had come to small local mom and pop shops along the way. Some in Beau Repair, some in Vawa, and some in Pointe Claire Village. But here we're talking about Santa in the Pointe Claire Shopping Center. But on November 29th, 1958, barely a few months after the whole mall opened, Santa Claus, or Santa's helper, arrived at the mall.
Right, he would be about here. He would have been around here somewhere.
Was this all parking lot?
I don't know what that, no, I don't know. I don't remember. It was just open. It was the end of the building.
So the placement of Santa does make sense because this is the original layout of this mall. You've got these two rectangular commercial slabs, and right here in the middle of the two, outdoors, is exactly where Santa would have been. But what I've learned about this mall in those early days, this place did things in style. Now, Santa didn't show up in a car, in a cab, or even in a sleigh. He showed up in a helicopter. In a helicopter. I mean, the kids' minds must have been blown. This is the 50s. This is when we have a million boomer kids running around all over the place, and they're hearing that Santa's going to be coming to this brand new mall in a helicopter. This is unbelievable. And this has not been talked about since then? What? So Santa showing up in a helicopter must have been pretty flippin' spectacular. So I wanted to find someone who remembered that Santa Claus as well. Maybe more so than just a drunk Santa or booze-smelling Santa. Someone who has a bit more of a nostalgic memory of Santa Claus. And I did. His name is Rob Burkman. He lived here in Lakeside Heights. He went to John Rennie. Here's a cute little picture of him. And he indeed remembers seeing Santa Claus in those first years of the shopping mall, and also, you know, kind of where he was at the time in the mall. Here's Rob.
So you remember where Santa was. So just explain to me where it was as if I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it was really cute. It was a hut just enough for a few people to be in. It was red with white trim on the gable, like mock frost or snow hanging off the roof. And they had lights strung on it. And it looked really magical. It was facing directly towards the middle of the parking lot. So it was sitting at a diagonal angle right in the middle of the L there, facing the middle of the parking lot. So yeah, nobody could miss it. My mom first took me to Santa at the little hut when I was really young, probably 5 or so. I guess by what you're saying, shortly after the shopping center opened. And then I'd go by myself, to see he was there. I used to go to Ted's hobby shop once in a while for models and painting parts and stuff, and or worse, and watch to see if he was there. Well, it was a really sweet part of my growing up. Of course, it's always Santa Claus is always magical to see, especially when you're young. Of course, Santa Claus was always as magical as always had a special appeal.
But the story doesn't stop with Rob. And this starts to circle back to Diane and her first impression of Santa Claus. I was given the opportunity to interview who may be one of the last or the last original merchants of this shopping center. His name is Jim McDermott, and he had a pharmacy called McDermott's. He had first opened up in Vawa in the early 50s. And then when this place opened in 58, he rented out a spot in the Papillon location, or the former Papillon, now Blue Nose location of the mall. He was in that area there. And since he was there at the time, I thought maybe he knew something about Santa Claus or Santa's helper here in the mall. And indeed he did. More than I could have bargained for.
He was Santa Claus. He was a professional bum, if you want, okay? He was a great friend.
What did you call him?
A bum, B-U-M.
A professional bum.
He was a professional bum.
He made money being a beggar, being a bum.
Yeah, and he was a great friend of Jim Smith's soda bar, of the soda bar.
Right.
And I got him the job as Santa Claus during the Christmas period. Okay. And I had the owners of the shopping center paying him his salary, and he used to sleep in the boiler room at the Pointe Claire shopping center.
The boiler room?
Yeah, the boiler room.
Oh, where was he slept in the boiler room at the Pointe
Claire? Well, the boiler room was at the end of the shopping center.
Let's just take a second to review what we've learned so far. So we've got Diane's drunk Santa, who was hired by Jim McDermott, the owner of McDermott's. Only like a month or two after the mall opened, he managed to find this guy. And like Freddy Krueger, he's living in the boiler room. So was it before or after Jim knew about the drinking? And did Jim know about the drinking?
Could this be the same one?
Possible. It's possible.
Yeah.
I never smelt him.
So you had to keep warm.
Well, I never had any bad results for him. He was, as far as I know, he was very kind, and he used to greet children, and he kind of looked forward to the job.
Was he the first Santa Claus?
He was the first Santa Claus, yeah.
How many years did he do it? Do you know?
Oh, at least 4 years.
Really?
Okay, great. So now we have a confirmation that Diane's drunk Santa and Rob's hut living Santa, the same guy who was Freddy Krueger boiler room living Santa, professional bum Santa, was all the same guy. Perfect. And this is the first Santa Claus in this mall. So what happened to him?
Yeah, well, he disappeared after Christmas. He disappeared. The professor used to hitchhike, go out to the West Coast.
What?
Yeah. Yeah.
And he would come back?
He would come back.
When the toys were ready?
Well, and he'd get the same old job, and I think he did for at least, mine out, anywhere from 3 to 5 years.
And he would sleep in the boiler room?
He would sleep in the boiler room.
And all you know is that he was a friend of Jim Smith's.
He was a friend of Jim. He used to eat at the soda bar, Jim Smith, and Jim never charged him anything.
And you never asked him, what's the deal with this guy? Where do you know him from? Or what's the...
Well, he was just a friend of Jim Smith, that's all.
Okay, I'm really sorry to keep cutting it off, but I just have to keep confirming here, because I'm kind of going through this in my head too, that booze drinking, Freddy Krueger living, West Coast pot smoking, Santa's little helper is in fact all the same guy. He's Jim's professional bum, he's Rob's hut living Santa, and he's Diane's drunken Santa. This is the first Santa's helper here in Plaza Pointe Claire. This is who was Santa's little helper, as well as, you know, wishing all the happy Christmas wishes to all the young little hundreds of millions of baby boomers who lived here in the area. But this is 1958, right? And Jim was there at the very beginning. And there was still that one thing that blew my mind, apart from all this stuff, one separate thing that blew my mind about that first Santa Claus, the helicopter. What was the deal with the helicopter, right? Jim knew about that too. Now, did he show up in helicopter?
Once.
For the first one, I think.
Yeah.
Who organized that? You're kidding
From
me.
Dorval Shopping, from the Dorval Airport.
And that's when this picture happens. You're there with Wendy, right?
Yep.
Okay, how do you? Because
Because he used to land on the roof of where Woolworths was.
right.
Yeah.
Now it's now the unit.
I know because I was in a helicopter with Santa Claus. Yeah, well, we used to take off from Dorval, a little bit north of the airport. There was a helicopter pad that went there,
Yeah.
and I was there with Santa Claus.
Unbelievable. I'm exhausted. All of this. I mean, in the grand scheme of West Island history, of Montreal history, of Canadian Christmas history, is a very insignificant and mundane story. But man, did it keep me entertained for months and months and months, finding out about Diane's drunken Santa, and then speaking to Rob and hearing a nice, cute little Christmas story, and then hearing all this stuff from Jim, seeing the pictures of Santa and a helicopter. I mean, learning about the mall in 1958, all creates a pretty interesting little Christmas tale. That's really all I have for this story, is just to introduce to you one particular Santa Claus from one particular mall in one particular part of this cute little suburb, of this cute little city, of this cute little country that we call Canada. Merry Canadian Christmas to all of you, and I'll see you in the new year. Great, you made it to the end of the video. I very much appreciate that. I wanted to remind everyone still watching that there is a PayPal link in the description below if you want to send a donation to support this channel and support my efforts to continue to create this content as much as I can. I can only do it really through your support. So PayPal link in the description. Any donation will be very much appreciated. Thank you, and we'll see you in the next one.